Welcome back to Let's Get Unleashed. So, anger and frustration. How do you deal with it? Today, I'm just full transparency. Today wasn't a great day for me. And I realized that some of the things that I thought I had completely overcome are still within me. So, when I was a lot younger, when I was a child actually, I used to suffer from temper tantrums, really, really bad temper tantrums. And those temper tantrums would surface when there were two reasons. The first reason would be if I couldn't find something. If something was misplaced and I would look and look and look and I could not find it, if it wasn't where it was supposed to be, I would lose it. And the second reason that I would have a temper tantrum was if I could not accomplish something that I felt that I should have the ability to accomplish within a certain amount of time. And so that is the thing that really jammed me up today. So I'm not quite sure if there's anybody else out there like me, but today technology was just not my friend. And anything and everything that could go wrong with this particular project that I was working on, it did so. And the thing that really bugged me was the fact that I had already went through the learning curve for this particular task, and I did it successfully. So I felt really confident going in, working on this task, and being able to knock this out. And it just would not work for me. No matter what I tried, I mean, even the undo options weren't working. I had to delete and re-upload over and over and over again. And it's one of those things that you have to start with one program and upload it to another program, and nothing was working. 3.5, maybe 4 hours later, I have a splitting headache. I'm fuming and I lose it. And the only thing that I could think of to throw was my plastic calculator that I knew I would not destruct, which is an improvement because when I was younger, I really enjoyed watching things smash, the sound of glass or whatever it was breaking and smashing, and seeing things fall into 1,000 pieces. It was really my anger manifesting in front of me, like someone could hear me. So when I would have these temper tantrums in my youth, it would be at least an hour event. I mean, I'm tearing everything apart. Monopoly pieces everywhere. My God, marbles, my clothes. I mean, books. I mean, there would be debris all over the room. It was absolutely mayhem. And my mother, I never forget, my mother would peep her head in and she's like, okay, she's having one of her moments, we'll close the door. And I would always fall asleep on top of all of the debris. I would just have a temper tantrum until I was exhausted. I always kept it concentrated into my own personal bedroom, never went outside, and because there was no way I was going to break up my mother's stuff. I wouldn't be here to talk to you today if I did. And I would fall asleep. Maybe an hour or 2 hours, like an hour and a half or so later, I would wake up typically. And I would come outside and go to my mother. And, I had my head down, like a dog walking through with their tail between their legs. And I'm all embarrassed and feeling silly. And she would look at me and she would always ask me if I was okay. And I would either say yes or no, depending on how well the sleep did for me. And she would ask me if I learned anything in the process. And the same thing would be, yes or no, whatever. I was always very honest. And she says, well, before you can do anything else, you need to put that room back together. And I don't want to see not a marble on that floor. Everything needs to be put back the way it was before you tore it apart, or I'm going to tear you apart. And I'm telling you, in that moment, it's like you would hear the Dr. Dre music in the background. Ding, 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 ding. She was like the G, because she's like, you can go ahead and do all that stuff if you want to, but you're going to put all that stuff back together. And after you do that for a few times, you realize that the cleanup is a lot harder then the tantrum, and I just didn't want to have the tantrum anymore. Another way that I learned how to stop doing that, excuse me, was during my first marriage. I am now maybe like 32 years old, married, had purchased our first home, and back then it was really popular to have dark walls, and I had painted my bedroom this really beautiful rustic brownish color. It was a deep, deep color. It took like 4 or 5 different types of coats to get that richness. It was beautiful, so I thought it was beautiful. And something happened. I was really upset, and I had the phone, and it was something that I thought I had did, and I didn't do it. And I got really angry with myself. And I never forget this. I had a mobile phone, and not a mobile phone. I had one of those cordless phones. I had a cordless phone, and I threw the phone, and it hit the wall, and it chipped the paint. And it was a chip about this big, and it chipped it all the way down to where I could see white. So now my perfectly painted, almost chocolate brown wall was now tainted. And the phone cracked into 1,000 pieces. And my husband came up and he looked at it, and I was crying because I was a mess, and I'm crying. And when everything calmed down, and I asked him to paint the wall because I didn't want to see it. And it was right in my eye view. I mean, my bed, the side of the bed that I slept on, it was literally right there. So imagine being on your side and getting angry and throwing the phone. So it's like right there in front of you. So there was no way that I could not see this. And he refused to paint it on purpose. And he said, each and every day you look at that, I want to remind yourself that you were never, ever to throw anything else in this household. And it worked. So today, I only throw my calculator. Fast forward, now I'm an adult, of course, and so self-control is important, and I had to learn, self-control. And it's interesting, I don't have a lot of anger towards other people. This is really anger towards myself, which taps into the whole type A personality. It taps into the whole perfectionism thing. It taps into all of those things. All the things that I coach people through, and I'm able to coach them through it because I've actually went through them myself, and I understand firsthand how it is. But today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have to tell you that today was very challenging. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I realized that who we are is still in us. We have to make a decision each and every day to be better. We have to make the decision that we are no longer going to do the things that no longer serves us, or we're no longer going to do the interactions or interact with other people that can give us harm, who are not pouring into us. It's a decision, which really sparked me to do this podcast today because I was amongst my anger and frustration, and boy, was I frustrated. When I took a moment to sit down and kind of quiet the noise in my head and look at that calculator, which is actually still sitting on the floor, I really had a little powwow with myself. And I said, wow, it's really interesting to see that as people, we are exactly who we are. We choose what to say. We choose what to do. We choose how to respond. And we can actually control the emotions that are attached to certain things. And for me, self-control could be quite painful sometimes when you want to just scream or yell or throw something or smash something. But you are this sophisticated adult person who knows much better than to deal like that, to behave that way, right? And I can feel my body just in turmoil, just like, no, but I want to just burst out and yell and scream. And I did take a drive, and and it's so funny because I said, I'm on this diet, and I'm really trying to eat really, really healthy. And so the first thing I do is I get into my car, and I'm buzzing up the block, and I go to get something that I should not be eating, and I sit down and I eat it, and immediately I'm nauseated. immediately I feel like, oh, this is not going to be a good end to my day, on top of everything else I had going on. Another lesson, right? Another lesson in not really responding in a very emotional and irrational way when you're already feeling emotional and irrational. And it's interesting because, yes, I am a life coach, and yes, I do coach people through circumstances like this, but at the end of the day, I am still a human being. You cut me, I bleed. If I'm sad, I will cry. If I hurt myself, I will feel pain. And I still have the emotions inside of me that I've always had. It is really up to me to identify those emotions and to choose to be better. It is a choice, it is a decision to be better. So, flip side, in looking at how much time I spent on this particular project, I would never coach someone who is struggling with something as long as I was today to stick with it as long as they did. You definitely need to take some breaks away from whatever task is giving you a hard time. Clear your mind, maybe put it away for another day and come back when you're refreshed. And I am going to listen to this episode so that I can remind myself of the things that I tell other people to do when I am struggling as well. But it's never a good idea when you are struggling with something for as long as I struggle today, that you just keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, because you're determined that no, it has to happen today, right now, and it's just not happening. I was exhausted. I had no patience. I was angry, beyond frustrated. And so, no matter what, my energy wasn't even going to allow for there to be success because I was just in such turmoil today. So let that just be a little bit of advice for you right then and there. But again, going back to just being able to sit back and say, wow, how interesting it is that the things that you used to do many, many years ago can resurface. And if I had allowed it, if I had given it any life, if I had given it just an inch to just show its ugly head, I would have allowed a temper tantrum at 53. I mean, really? Who needs to do that? But that's how frustrated I was. And it's important for us to know exactly who we are. It is important for us to know exactly the traits that we have. It's important for us to tell that inner voice, no, we no longer do that. We don't behave that way anymore. We are adults. We can have self-control. Settle down, Cherie, and take a beat. You are not going to behave this way. Step away from your computer, take a walk, get a drink of water, and come back another day. And that's what I decided to do. And I decided to talk to you all about my experience today, because I thought that I'm sure that somebody could resonate with this. You know, it's really, oh, the other part of this that I just was reminded of in my own little brain was that when I'm like that, I don't want to communicate to other people because I know that I'm not pleasant, and I had to close the door. You know, my husband and I, we share office space together, and I did not want him to catch the heat that he did not deserve. And I realized that I still have to work on that. He wants, men are fixers, and he wants to come in, and he asked me a couple of times, well, what's going on? What's happening? What's not working? Is it the computer? Is it this? Is it that? And it was none of those things. And in all actuality, it was nothing that he could actually help me with. He could not help me. And him asking me what was going on was agitating me even more so when he's just trying to be kind and nice to me. And so I know that when I'm in that space, I need to just kind of separate myself so I can get my stuff together. I need to kind of give myself a powwow and, maybe do a couple of woo-saws and bring her back to where she needs to be without saying anything that could hurt somebody else. But what happens is I'm shutting him out. What happens is when we do that, we shut other people out. people who care about us and people who love us, it's hard for them to watch us and see us go through any type of anguish. But for all the people out there who love people who are going through something in the moment, sometimes we just need a second to either, number one, figure it out in quiet and in peace, or have a second to cry, say some things we might not want to say in front of other people, or just sometimes to just cool off. Doesn't happen all the time, but we're human beings and things can agitate us. I wish that I was the type of person who nothing ever bothered me. Water off my back, it's all good, it's all gravy. But no, I am a type A personality, and I am someone who is paid to know how to do a lot of different types of things. And I pride myself in being able to learn things very, very quickly. And when I can't, there's no grace for me. I don't give myself grace, and that is something that I have to do. I have to give myself grace. I am a human being. But sometimes it just feels as though, why can't I just do this? Why is it taking so long? Why can't I figure this out? Why isn't technology working? What is the problem? What am I doing wrong? When you get to that point, it's definitely time to walk away. Start fresh another day. Put it down. And I can definitely attest to this. 9 times out of 10, when you come back to it, you have a clear mind, you've rested, you don't have all the negative emotions attached to that you've had for all the hours that it has been building up. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to see what the problem is because you have a fresh eye and you'll be able to fix it. It's really hard to navigate in the space of anger and frustration and disappointment, because it was disappointing. It was really difficult to do that. But I will say that I am happy that I did calm down. I did not turn into a 12-year-old and destroy my beautiful office. And I am turning this negative into a positive by sharing this with you in a podcast in hopes that maybe somebody can relate and somebody will say, you know what? I get what she's saying. I tend to do that too. So the moral of this story is to just really know who you are. Understand what your traits are. Even those traits that you have overcome, they will resurface. And you need to be able to have enough tools in place to be able to identify when they're showing up again and to be able to say, we're not doing that anymore. We're just not those people anymore. So just tone it down, take a breath, and do something else. So if you like this, make sure that you follow me, like, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, and remember, never let anyone dim your light. They don't have that power. And if your light tends to be shining just a little bit too brightly for them, well, you know what? They could always wear sunglasses. Until next time, bye.